Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. This week, we're crossing the pond again. Woohoo! And my guest is Emily. She runs the Etsy shop BrightenUpUK, and she sells, amongst other things, her handmade lampshades. So we're going to talk about what Emily is doing on Etsy and so much more. Emily, thank you so much for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm absolutely delighted.
You are so welcome. I'm so happy to have someone who sells, but not in the US, only because I feel like with the podcast, it's very heavily weighted with US based sellers. Not that I don't appreciate that, I do, but I also know that there are lots of international sellers as well, and selling on Etsy as a non-US based seller is kind of a different experience. So we'll get to talk all about that in the course of our conversation. But before we do, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got on Etsy?
I certainly can. Well, I guess it all started when I moved into my first house of my very own, and I just really wanted to fill it with really joyful, bright, crazy, wacky colors. My favorite kind of color palette is the rainbow color palette, and I just couldn't find anything out there in my budget. And yeah, that's when I kind of thought, well, if I can't afford kind of big art pieces and posters and things, how about I just kind of make boring things really exciting? And because we were renting as well, it was like, well, I can't really like paint the walls and stuff. So yeah, I kind of got fixated on this idea that I wanted some really cool lampshades. And the kind of person I am is I never want to pay for anything if I can make it. Because I'm a bit of a tightwad. Yes. And so, yeah, I got practicing, and then I just got the bug. And my friends were asking me for them, and I can't remember. It's probably the same thing that most Etsy sellers have, where a friend says, "Why don't you sell these?"
Yeah.
And then you suddenly think, "Oh my goodness, this is a whole new world."
Yes. Now, did you teach yourself how to make the lampshades?
I did. Yeah, I did. It was I had a few dodgy ones.
Of course.
Whilst I was learning, and my first lampshade is actually hanging in my living room right now, and I always tell people not to look at that one too closely because it's really wonky and falling apart. But I love it. I absolutely love it. So I would never get rid of it at all. But yeah, lots of hours of things going wrong before you kind of improve and improve and improve to the point now that I'm very comfortable charging for what I do because I know it's the best that I can possibly make it.
And that was what I was going to ask next was, how did you know when it was good enough to charge money for it?
That's a very good question. I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat, and I don't know if it's actually maybe a cultural British thing, but we're all quite embarrassed and quite humble a lot of the time, and nobody wants to put themselves out there and say, "Look at this thing that I did. It's amazing.
It's the
I'm
best.
going to charge you some money." It's a really difficult hurdle to get over. But I just kind of thought, well, you know, my mum, as I grew up, she was always a seamstress, and for many years, she made really intricate clothes for replica Victorian China dolls. So it's really random, isn't it?
Yes.
But her work was so meticulous. So I grew up looking for, high standards and make sure your work is good.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just kind of, yeah, I just kept going until I felt like there was no mistakes.
Yeah.
And then close your eyes, press click, and hope for the best.
Yes. Okay. So you get to the point where you're comfortable asking for money for your work. Well, how do you decide what it's worth?
That is tricky. That is really tricky. And I think most veteran sellers will use a formula and they will advise newbies to use that formula. Make sure you're charging for your time, you're charging for your profit margins, your labor, your overheads. I'm not convinced that's what I would recommend for someone starting out, though.
Okay.
I think as long as you're covering your costs, I think you can actually build it up from there.
Okay.
And I think because with a lower price, you can establish your name, you can kind of make those mistakes and learn from them. And then as you scale up your business, you can kind of benefit from all those good reviews that you're going to have built up. So you can start putting your prices up. As you scale up your business, you're also kind of buying in bulk more. And I think that you can build your profit margin into that as well.
Okay.
And then, yeah, over time, and once you're kind of established and you're making, several sales a week or a day, even if you're doing really well, I think that's when you can start raising your prices. When you've got all those lovely reviews, all that experience, you're working nice and fast, and you're meeting your deadlines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say don't stress out too much about pricing yourself out the market.
Right. And Emily, actually, I like the wisdom in that, because one thing I was thinking when you were saying that is it's true. If you're just starting out and you're not priced too high, not to say to sell at dirt cheap or nothing, but enough to cover your costs. I think even in the beginning, when you're still learning and you make some mistakes, buyers will tend to be more gracious if they don't feel like they paid so much for this and you didn't get it right, or something went wrong, because they don't feel like for what I'm paying I should get much better. And then as you get better and there are fewer fewer stumbles along the way, then you can charge more. And because you're so much better, you're not going to make your beginner mistakes, and people will be paying for that expertise as part of the product.
Yeah. And with any business, I mean, with any business in the world, not just crafting, but any kind of retail, people always kind of say, it takes a couple of years before you'll get into profit, or it'll take 2 or 3 years, or it'll take the first 5 years before you start to see a return. I'm not convinced that crafting should be a whole other world to that. I don't think I wouldn't want to wait 5 years, to see a profit.
Yeah.
I think you can apply that on a much smaller scale, even though you're making the stuff yourself. As long as you're covering your costs, get that experience under your belt, definitely. Yeah. And then you can start to raise your prices, and you can see how that affects your sales. And if the sales are still coming in, that means people want to pay more because they know that you're good, and they can see your reviews, and they can see your experience. And product photography is getting better. You're getting faster at doing it. I think it's a comfortable way for me personally to price. Yeah. It's constantly evolving. I don't have it perfect, but
yeah, and I think the longer we sell and hone our craft, I don't think anybody will ever really have it down. Except if you're a manufacturer, in which case you have to have it down.
It's a bit more formula.
So you've been selling on Etsy since 2014. You have almost 1,500 sales. Can you think back to the early days and getting your first sale? Do you remember how soon after you opened your shop that happened?
I do. I do.
Oh,
It was
good.
pretty soon after I opened my shop, actually. And I remember it well because I don't know if I should tell you this. I remember it well because out of all of my 1,500 odd sales, it was the only one that left me a review less than 5 stars.
You're kidding.
I was really gutted. I
That was
was
your very first sale?
so I was really excited when the sale came in. She actually ordered 3 lampshades all at once.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, I was kind of thinking, people would buy one
Yeah.
and package that up in the boxes that I have. But she bought 3, and I ended up spending ages racking my brains how to package 3 lampshades into one box.
Oh.
And if that happens now, I send them in 3 boxes. It's like a real no-brainer. Because of the way that the postage system works, it tends to be, depending on the size, it tends to be cheaper to send them separately than together.
Oh.
And it's better for their protection and stuff.
Do you charge, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but do you charge 3 separate shipping fees, or they pay once?
At that point in time, I think I did. Or I think it was like an add-on charge. So it was, you spend £5 on shipping, and then every multiple item is like £1 more.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
Which would work for t-shirts, but not for lampshades.
Yes.
Not if they're all the same size.
Yeah.
So that was a learning curve.
I was just going to say, this is all part of that live and learn, or sell and learn.
Yeah, and luckily, like, now I'm in the position where I can offer free shipping, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And I have a really good relationship with like my couriers and Royal Mail accounts and things.
Okay.
But yeah, at the time it was a real conundrum. I spent far too long trying to work out how to do this. And yeah, so she got them. I was really excited to get her feedback. And she gave me 2 5-star reviews for the first 2 lampshades. And the third one, she gave a 3-star review.
Huh.
My heart sunk. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? I'm so embarrassed. And it was a really wacky review. It said something, I'm sure it's still on my page, but it said something along the lines of, I bought it to go with a Christmas plant, and the pink in the shade didn't quite match the plant.
Oh.
So I'm giving it 3 stars.
Oh my goodness.
So once I'd plucked up the courage to actually read what the feedback was, I thought, you know what, that's fine.
Yeah. Well,
Never been to, like, do not know what your plants look like.
I know.
I'm good with that.
Well, at least you got to. I was thinking that for all 3, it was all bad.
No, thankfully not. No, but me being, typical British, anything less than 5 stars was the end of the world, and everyone hates me, and I'm a terrible person, and I need to go and sit in a bucket and eat some worms. That's kind of how I felt for about 5 minutes there.
Wow. So, but then you stayed on,
I did.
obviously. Did you at any point think, okay, this, maybe I made a mistake. I shouldn't be doing this, especially early on, getting a 3-star review so early in the process. Did you ever rethink whether or not you should keep the shop going, or did your subsequent sales just come in soon after, so you didn't really have time to even contemplate closing your shop?
They weren't. I mean, they weren't constantly coming in at that point in time. But I don't think it was too long before I got another. It was pretty soon that I had a few a week to do, maybe like 2 or 3 a week.
Okay.
Which was enough to kind of distract me.
Yeah.
I definitely questioned whether I should be doing this when it came to buying in bulk. So initially I bought things in 12s. So all my lampshade rings, my linings, things like that. all the things I need to make them, all the supplies. I was buying them in 12s, which seemed like a lot of money to me. And it seemed like, oh, now I have to buy. I have to buy 12. That means I have to sell 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. And when it came to the time to scale up, the next scale up was 30.
Ooh.
And to me, that was, that was a few £100 to buy this. And to me, that was just huge. And my babies were quite small at that point in time.
Mm.
And, I kind of stopped working to look after them. And I was thinking, I'm spending all these hundreds of pounds on lampshade supplies. And if it all goes wrong, I'm looking at my little babies playing on the floor thinking, we won't be able to eat. What am I doing? I'm gambling this money. Whereas now, I'll spend that and I don't even think about it. So
right. And
feel the fear to do it anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's a good message for someone who's listening now and is at that point where their shop is doing well enough and it's time to scale. It's scary when you think about growing, because not only do you have to consider, okay, I'm going to make more, but you have to spend more as well.
Yeah.
And initially you don't have the guarantee that spending more is really going to bring in more. I mean, sometimes, you have the feeling, you're growing and your sales are growing, but still.
It's always that gamble though, isn't it? It's always, nothing is guaranteed.
Yes.
So it's definitely scary, especially, you might have more money coming in, but even though you've got more money coming in, it's still scary to see the big numbers going out.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though the ratio is still working out about the same.
Yes.
It's totally scary, for sure.
About how long into selling did it take for you to start breaking even, and then how long after that, and this is all if you can remember, or roughly, how long after that did you then become profitable? Because there's a difference. You can be selling and just making back up what you're putting in, but then, you're not really making money in a business until you're making a profit.
Yeah, I would say probably about a year until I'd completely broken even.
Okay.
And then after that, everything that I was making, I was just plowing back into the business. So, if I make £100 profit, for example, I would use that to buy a larger bulk of supplies and get a better deal.
Okay.
Or if I make £200 profit, I was going straight out to the fabric shop with £200 in my hand saying, take buying more fabric, more different designs, experimenting, not just playing it safe. Yeah, you can afford to try and tap into every taste.
Yeah.
And to a large extent, I've still been doing that until now.
Okay.
I keep thinking, I'm doing all this work. Why aren't I rich?
I know. And hey, let's see, you're at the 2014, 2018, that's the 4-year mark, going on almost 5 years now. And
definitely say in the last year, I've been making a good profit, a livable profit.
Okay, good.
And this has, become my full-time job now.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know if we mentioned this before today, but I launched my own website about 4 weeks ago.
Oh,
and
so still very new.
It's still very new, still very frightening.
Yes. And for anyone who wants to check it out, it's mybrightenup.com.
It is, yes.
Yes.
Very long website address.
Actually, no, that's not terribly long. Actually, I've seen longer. I think I have some that have much longer. And I will link to it in the show notes for this episode. But if you want to hop over there really quickly, it's mybrighten, BrightenUp.com. So what led to you launching your own website?
Well, do you know, it's just always been a dream of mine. And I've never had the courage to do it. I absolutely
There's that
never
British in you
believed.
coming out.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I remember the way that we connected is when I listened to one of your podcasts and you were talking about being an introvert and running a business on Etsy.
Yes.
But I connect with that. That is 100% me. Um, always, yeah, always the introvert. But anyway, I'm going off track. Yeah, it was always a dream, and I have these certain brands that are really joyful and colorful, again, kind of rainbow palette kind of brands.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, imagine, I can't necessarily afford to buy all of this stuff,
Mm.
but imagine if you had a shop and you'd get to play with it all day and make money doing what you love. So it was always my dream. And yeah, I started a few years before I started doing Brighten Up on Etsy and my lampshades. I did start going down the path of how to run a website, and I chickened out. I chickened out before pressing the button, and I just convinced myself that I absolutely couldn't do it, and I wasn't brave enough. And then, yeah, like what, 6 years later, here I am, and I thought, you know what, this can be a nice segue from my lampshades into my dream, which is running that website.
Yeah.
But all my profits have been going into, for the last year, I've been kind of getting trade accounts and buying stock. So I put lots of money, all of my profits, into buying stock for Brighten Up.
Okay.
And yeah, so I haven't been out buying any new shoes for a long time. One day.
It's the business or the kids. It's
Yeah.
never you. So on your website, your own mybrightenup.com, the products that you offer there are more, you have a wider product line there than you have on Etsy. Is your intention to grow that more, or is there some reason that you have two separate product lines and not on both sites and not the same on both?
That's an interesting question, actually. So on Etsy, a lot of what I sell isn't necessarily my personal taste. So I try to cater for everybody, and things that I love and am absolutely, obsessed with and bring me so much joy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not all of them, but occasionally there's something that I'll be totally obsessed with and it'll sell quite slowly.
On Etsy, you mean?
On Etsy,
Okay.
yeah. And then some of the stuff that I'm not so into will sell really quickly, but that's absolutely fine. Everyone has completely different tastes. And as long as the customer is absolutely in love with what they've bought, then, I'm selling joy. That's good with me. I don't have to share the same taste.
Yeah.
But with my website, I thought, why not have an outlet where I am obsessed with everything and where every single thing is like a toy to me,
Yeah.
So that's my kind of joy outlet there, and it's my taste. And I feel like it's a bit more curated, so it all kind of goes with everything on the website.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah, I want to grow that for sure.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask next was, if you had to say how much time on a 100% scale you currently give to each, your Etsy shop and your own website.
Oh my goodness.
How do you currently divide up your time, your attention?
Good question. Well, at the moment we're kind of at this point that we're talking today, it is kind of mid-November just passed, which is in my book silly season for sales.
Oh,
it's
yes.
just
Just
a
before,
bit
yes.
crazy. So I would say at the moment I'm devoting about 95% of my time to Etsy.
Okay.
And much less than I'd like on my website, but that's fine. Etsy has looked after me for so long. I'm certainly not going to neglect that.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't know if I was listening to something or reading something, and this was literally just yesterday, because I was going down a rabbit hole of I need to, stay organized and stay on track. And I don't know how this thing came in front of me when I was probably surfing when I should have been working. And
oh no, I never do that.
I think I'm the only one. And the person who was talking or reading, I was just saying, okay, if you have so many things on your to-do list and your goal is, to make money, and we're talking about, spending time on your business, then you have to knock out the things that are going to earn you money first and then get to the other things. And I was like, oh, okay. All right.
I love that. I think that's genius. I'm going to write that down.
I know. And it's so simple. I was like, you would think that would occur to everyone, but somehow it just didn't occur to me that, first do the things that will make you money and then do the other things. And so, if it means falling back on your email, responding to email because you have a new product that you want to, get listed because it's something that is going to sell, then do that before responding to, another spam email or clearing out your email inbox. Unless, of course, somebody's...
You know what, Ijama? I think you've just revolutionized my work process right there.
Well, now I wish I could give credit to whoever it was that I heard. Yes, that's how profound it was for me. I don't remember who said it. I just remember thinking, oh, I feel liberated now. I know what to do next.
I love it. It's gone on one of my rainbow post-it notes.
Your sticky notes, yeah. Ooh, I made it to the stickies.
Sticky notes everywhere.
Now, you've been on Etsy for a while. Let's talk about how sellers can improve their Etsy shops. I know on the podcast we talk about product photography being really important and, some other stuff. But for you, Emily, what ideas do you have that you think would be helpful to other sellers to help improve their shops?
Oh, that's a great question. I have lots of ideas, actually. I've really, especially since listening to your podcast, I found you really recently. So I'm going through them kind of back to front at the moment. I've still got lots to get through. But I've got so many good ideas from your podcasts, and that's led me on to other ideas. Something I was listening to you, I can't remember. Oh gosh, was it Rachel?
Yes,
somebody.
Rochelle.
Yes,
yes,
that'll be it, Rochelle.
Yes. Pacific Crest Silver. Yes.
That's it. I looked up her shop. It's so amazing.
Isn't she doing just amazing things? Yes.
I just want everything. Yeah, I think I just hearted 90% of the shop. So thanks, Rochelle. It'll be broke for us. But she was talking about reaching out locally, which
yes.
I hadn't really thought about. I have to say, as an introvert, as I've mentioned, I quite like being in my house, in my little workroom with the door closed and not having to go out in the outside world. Not that I'm antisocial or anything. I have lots of amazing friends and a great social life, but that's how I recharge, is by being on my own. So it hadn't really occurred to me, being on an online platform, why there might be benefit to actually meeting up face to face with local people. So I loved her podcast, and I loved all the ideas that she had. And I thought, do you know what? I can do this. So I fiddled about with Etsy for a while, trying to work out how to find people by location. I didn't find it very easy, actually. I would love to see that in an Etsy update in the future, a kind of more simplified way to find people in distance. Because where I live in Dorset, we have lots of little villages. So it takes a long time to type in each village.
Oh, that sounds so quaint, actually.
It would be really good to be able to search by postcode or zip code and then order it by distance. I thought that would be a really cool feature for Etsy. So yeah, anyway, I reached out locally. So I typed in a few of the village names and loads of people came up. I couldn't believe it. But
Wait, where did you type this in? Where were you doing your search?
Well, I think it's on the left on my computer screen. It's on like the left-hand side, and you have to search by location. So you can do you search by UK or you can search by custom. So in the custom box, I type in there. But it's really hard to work out how to do that without typing in an item to search for.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know what people sell. So
right. Yeah.
Ceramics, and it might be a jewelry seller. So I did work out how to do it in the end, but it took me a long time. But yeah, the weirdest thing actually is how close one of the sellers was. It was my next door neighbor, but one.
Wow.
I know. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it because she had never mentioned that she had an Etsy shop.
But
and
you
I
guys know each other and you guys talk.
In passing, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I've lived in this house about 6 months.
Okay.
And so we'd kind of said hello, and our kids had played together in the field and stuff. But yeah, I had no idea. So it was really amazing having that connection. And then now we've had a couple of coffees together. We've looked at how to improve our shots together, given each other a bit of advice and resources. And at the moment, I'm in the process of getting about 10 or 12 of us together for a coffee in a coffee shop and do some resource sharing. I mean, the way I see it is the more people that are successful on Etsy, the more advertising Etsy gets, and therefore more customers are coming to Etsy that I can kind of advertise to.
Yes. That's so impressive, Emily, that you did that.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, like you found and formed your own meetup, which could eventually become a mastermind group of of fellow sellers. And
podcast members who was talking about the mastermind group, and I was thinking, wow, that's really impressive and inspiring.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, to a certain extent, it has. How do I say it? I guess it's put me slightly with a hat of coaching on. So I was hoping it would kind of be mix and match, give and take. Yeah. I would get lots of ideas. I would give ideas because we're all good at different things, right?
Yes.
And for a couple of people, I've ended up kind of slightly coaching them. But then that tied in nicely with another podcast that I listened to you talk about, which was when you mentioned passive income.
Yeah.
And it's got me thinking. I'm thinking, well, can I make some kind of like ebook on how to improve your Etsy shop? Can I maybe do some like your interviewee that was talking about Mastermind? I know that she's kind of monetized that, and that gives her a better engagement rate with people signing up. So my head is just full of bubbles of ideas.
Yes.
You know, many ideas at the moment.
and yes, I get that. And passive income, I feel like the phrase has been kind of abused in such a way that, and maybe everybody doesn't feel this way, but you know how when you start looking for something to do, like, okay, I want to start my own business, and then you do research online and eventually you hit on passive income, and you have to weed through so much junk and so many scammy like just things that just feel icky before you get to something that's real. And so sometimes I feel like when we use the term passive income, it might conjure up bad images in people's minds. But I think it's really a good way and a very brilliant way for sellers, Etsy sellers, to expand their businesses and to grow.
Absolutely. And I think I was a bit late to the party because I've never had a passive income before you.
Oh, okay. So, okay, good. Your mind is still clean.
I'm very sheltered here in the countryside of Dorset.
Yes. Okay. So that's good. But yes, passive income. And I think a lot of Etsy sellers don't automatically think that that's something they can do because you think Etsy, you think handmade, you think physical or digital. And yes, digital can be passive. I mean, you have to make it at least once and hopefully improve on it or continue making new products or iterations or digital products. But even people who make physical products like you can also develop a passive income stream. I've seen other sellers do it successfully. And if you don't mind, we can brainstorm some ideas, you and I, and hopefully that will give somebody else listening some ideas of how they can add a new passive product line to what they're doing. It doesn't mean you have to stop anything you're doing now, but just think about this as just turning on another stream that you hopefully won't have to put as much effort into down the line. Up front, you do. For a really good passive income stream, you need to put work in up front, and then you get it pays off in dividends as time goes on.
Well, the way I see it is for most crafters, for the bulk majority of crafters, is we're not just selling a product, but we're selling like increments of our time.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a lampshade takes me, say, 2 hours to make on average, then I can't have, once I've sold all of my 2 hours, I can't sell anymore because I can't physically make them.
Yes.
So, that means that my income has a ceiling that I can't reach beyond. Whereas with a passive income, yes, I could put 12 hours into making something to be a passive income earner. But then the idea is that it sells in the background and you're not having to constantly start from scratch every sale.
Yes.
Which is a really attractive idea.
Now, for you, Emily, what would that look like?
Oh, well.
Specifically, based on what you're doing now?
Well, I mean, an idea that's been popping into my head recently is possibly doing something surrounding coaching or kind of shop improvements for new beginners with Etsy that they might not quite know about, and doing like a walkthrough to explain how Etsy is working and what to stay on top of. Keywords, tags, things like that.
Okay. How would you be different from everyone else who is doing it now?
I'm
not trying to put you on the spot. I'm going somewhere with this.
I guess I would try and keep it super simple, and I would try and explain it in great depth and not just assume that people know things.
Okay.
Because I'm not very technologically minded, so sometimes I need things really explained right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know. What were you thinking?
Well, okay. So, what have you done that's has uniquely worked for you? That's where I would start. If you want to go down the road of Etsy shop improvement, and I'll tell you this: I put into the search bar shop improvement, and I got about maybe 2,000 results, which isn't bad.
No.
That's not bad.
That idea out the window then.
No, 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 no. No, that's not bad. Because if you assume that Etsy shows, how many, I want to say maybe not 40, 60 or 80 listings per page. Actually, let me not guess. So that comes out to, I'm going to look now. Okay, 56 pages of results. Okay, that does sound kind of intimidating. 56. It's actually just under 3,000.
Oh.
But that's still not bad when you consider if you put in something like printable X whatever, you're going to get many more thousands. So then my next question would be, what will be different and uniquely different that you would offer so that you stand out from the other 2,700 results? And do you think you have enough to offer that will be significantly different from what all these other people who are saying, I can help you improve your Etsy shop, are offering?
I haven't really thought this through at all, as you might have guessed.
Oh yes, and I like that because I want us to do this on the fly, and then if this isn't a good idea, maybe we can think of another one.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
this is how we figure out, not just for you but somebody else listening, like maybe they were also considering doing offering Etsy shop improvement services, but now it's like, okay, there are 2,700 other people to compete with. How much different can I make what I'm going to do?
I definitely think I could do it from a UK seller perspective.
Okay, there we go.
That's going to knock out like 90% of the competition, right?
Yes, there we go. Yes, you probably could.
Boom.
All right. So we'll come back to this, but one of the things I did want us to talk about is, and this will tie into this, how different is it selling as a seller in the UK on a site that speaks very much to the American market?
Oh, well, do you know, I've never sold in the USA, so...
You never had a sale to the US?
Oh, no, I have sold like things to people in the US.
Okay.
In fact, I sell quite a lot to the US. It always surprises me because I think, what? You don't have lampshades in America?
Not like the ones Emily makes.
Oh, thanks. I'm always really grateful and humbled when someone does that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
When they order from so far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a seller, I've never been in the USA on Etsy, so I can only guess what it's like for you guys over there. In the whole, I don't notice it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's brilliant. If they have made adaptations for the UK, then they're doing a great job, mostly on the whole.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that probably the trickiest bit is the conversion rates. So here in the UK, everything seems to get converted in sales into US dollars and then back again. And we seem to be losing quite a bit on our percentages for like fees, for example.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's released in the same time in the USA, but did you recently have the payment account updates?
Yes.
Where everything
Yes.
changed?
Yes, we did.
Everyone like freaked out on the forums.
Yes, I saw that. I was like, oh, I can't deal with this.
So I tend to take, a relatively positive outlook on these things, but I was interested to see what people were freaking out about and what issues might have come up. And it seemed to be a recurring point was that, there's a 5% charge on your transaction fee. And a lot of us UK sellers or non-US sellers were finding that fee was actually working out significantly higher. So in some cases, anywhere between 5 and 7.5%.
Really? Oh, because the currency gets converted, you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
charged and then it gets reconverted and then you lose some because
So
the dollar has lower value than the pound.
when it gets converted to US dollars, it doesn't necessarily instantly convert back to UK. And so I think there were possibly, I'm not a mathematician, but I think possibly there's some fluctuations there that also are not working out in our favor.
Mm.
So I think initially people thought it was a bug and that we would all be, kind of refunded in hindsight. And I think I don't go on the forums very often, but I think the last I heard was that it's not a bug and it's just the way it is. So deal with it.
Yeah.
But it makes it difficult for accounting because you don't know how much of your sale you're going to lose. So I would like to see them sort that out somehow, but I don't know if it's possible. It would be nice if you could make a £10 sale and know exactly how much of that is going to end up in your pocket. It helps you to price your items correctly.
Yeah.
But with these fluctuations, it makes that a little bit tricky. And those, it's not a huge amount, kind of a fluctuation of 2.5%, but over the month, that can be quite a lot of money.
Yes. And I recall reading somewhere on Etsy, and I don't remember where, and I might have mentioned this in an episode a while ago, but I think Etsy they have some foreign exchange fees and percentage fees that they charge. Actually, I shouldn't even talk about it because I don't know the exact numbers, but I seem to remember there's a percentage. But then what makes it hard, even though they tell you what the fee will be, is it's based on the currency exchange rate at the time it happens, which, as you know, can fluctuate just,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
It would be amazing if at some point in the future there could be, it could be 5% of your currency, not of just USA currency. Because
Yeah.
it must be an effort having to have the technology to convert it all for every single sale. There's got to be a better way, but yeah, like I say,
Yeah. So yeah, I can imagine how that could be problematic, especially when it comes to doing your books. And so when it comes time for you to do your accounting, do you do it on an ongoing basis or do you just wait for the month to end and then tally everything up?
I would like to choose one of those options. However, I'm going to really show myself up and say, leave it all until my tax return is due and then go, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I've got to do all my accounts.
Yes. Yeah. I think we've all been there at some point. And I know I've been burned by trying to do I learned the hard way to try and stay on top of it.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
It'll be fine.
Yes. Okay. All right. So do you feel like there are other issues that you face that are unique to being a seller that isn't based in the US?
Do you know, I actually don't. I feel really positive about
Okay,
being on
good.
Etsy. And I don't feel like I'm penalized really, apart from that fee conversion situation, which I'm sure we'll get a better handle on as the new payment account settles in. I don't think I get penalized. I think it's a really open platform, and I'm sure lots of people will no doubt disagree with me, but I think it's a really equal and open platform, and I think it's great, even to the extent that so in the UK we spell things differently
Yes.
to to America. So, for example, the word color, which is something that crops up in my listings relatively often. I don't need to, for example, put in my tags color and color the way you guys.
Yes.
I don't need to do that, because if someone's typing it in, it's going to automatically recognize what region they're in.
Yes.
Change that for me. And I think that's amazing. I think that's a really good thing to do, so you're not wasting all your tags, depending on, trying to attract your American customers. It'll just convert things like that, like those subtle spelling differences, etc.
Yes. And I do like in their new ultimate guide to Etsy search, they did say that spelling variations in different countries are accounted for, so you don't have to try and get every, like jewelry and jewelry. Yes, you don't have to worry about all that. So that's good.
I think that's really great. I think it's really clever, and I think it must have taken a long time to work out for them how to do it. So it's something that I really appreciate.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't forgotten about your passive income. So let's get back to that. So it sounds like you're not really feeling the shop improvement.
Possibly. Well, I'm not feeling it.
Okay.
It might go on the back burner, that's all.
Okay. Do people ever ask you how to make the lampshades or the buntings that you offer?
I do. And for a long time, I've had so many people ask me. I even had a local sewing shop ask me to run a class. And for a long time, I found that really terrifying. It's a lot of commitment and putting yourself out there in front of people, and talking to a large group of people, etc. can be scary. But mostly I thought, well, if I teach them how to make them, they won't buy anything from me ever.
Yeah. That's one way to look at it. That's one way to approach that. Yes.
I think that's a really closed-minded view to take.
Yes.
And I one of my post-it notes, one of my millions of post-it notes, I wrote down a quote that I really liked, which was, change your mind about not changing. And I really like it. And every time that I have a really closed-minded thought, I look at my fluorescent blue post-it note and I think, okay, how can I make this actually work in my favor? How can this be positive rather than a negative thought? And I actually think, teaching other people to do things, you're engaging with new people, you're making new contacts. They're going to pass the word on to their friends. They're going to feel a connection with you. I think that, I think teaching people to make lampshades could be a good thing.
Okay. And how many people or have you gotten as many requests for help with improving Etsy shops from other sellers?
That's a good question. I mean, I've certainly in more recent weeks had quite a few requests about helping people with shops.
And did they ask you very specific questions, or just generally, hey, take a look at my shop, tell me what I can do differently?
A bit of both, actually. A bit of both. But for the specific questions, I'm not convinced I would have known how to answer until maybe over the last few weeks, just because I've been listening to so many podcasts on how to improve your business, how to improve your shop. And I've been putting so much energy into learning everything that I can about how to improve my business, that now it's all in my head, and I kind of feel like, well, I want to share that with people anyway. I don't necessarily need to make any money from it. I just I like the idea that, I've got all of this info that I've taken from 100 different places, and I like the idea of putting it in one place. Now you've told me there's 3,000 people I could have just bought that from. Can I get that 50 hours I spent on?
But 3,000 people that wouldn't do it the way you do it.
Okay.
Okay, so here's something you can do next. Do you use Google?
I I do, yeah.
Okay. Do you use Google Documents?
No.
Okay. Well, okay. Whatever word processing system you use, open up 2 documents, and then without looking at any reference materials that you have in the past, make one with all the suggestions you can think of for improving an Etsy shop. Things that you've done, things that you're aware of that have helped you and you can really speak to. And then in the other one, write down the steps you would to teach someone how to make a lampshade or a bunting or whatever people have asked you to teach them how to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then see how you feel about each. Which one did you feel more comfortable and more competent, and did you enjoy creating more? And that might help to give you a better sense of what your first passive income stream should be.
Yeah. And I love that suggestion as well, because I think if you feel joyful and enjoy what you're doing and what you're selling, you're going to sell it better.
Yes, exactly. And if it comes more like, if as you're writing up these notes, and it's not necessarily what you would sell, but they could form the framework or the skeleton of what you can eventually turn into a digital product.
Yeah.
As you're writing them up, see which one feels more natural, see which one comes, to you easier, which one is more effortless just because you're so much better at doing it. And then focus on that one, because I know other sellers who know how to make things develop a skill at teaching others how to make things. And yes, you can think for a minute that if you teach them, they won't come back to you. But also, if you teach someone, you're setting yourself up as their mentor. And so when they have questions, when they want to expand their skills, when they want to learn how to do the next thing, they're coming back to you, because to them, you're the know-it-all. You're the one who got me on this road. Now tell me how to keep going, So, and you never know, if the people who want to learn how to do it, not everybody wants to open up their shop. They might just want to make, a birthday bunting, for a kid, which might be used one time, or, for a couple of kids' birthday parties. Then they need to make the next one. And then the next one they need to make, they might want to make a bit fancier. And so they're going to ask you, well, how do I do this? How do I make this a bit more elaborate, etc.?
I love that. Yeah, no, it's so good to hear your perspective on that. I love it.
Okay, good. I would really like to follow up with you on this, if you don't mind, just so we can see how it panned out. And if it doesn't, that's okay too, because sometimes the timing just isn't right.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would love to follow up with you. I have so many thoughts in my head right now.
Okay, what are you thinking?
What am I good at? What can I teach people? And I've got this. You need smell-o-vision, right? Because I've got smell wafting in through my door right now from the kitchen. I have a shepherd's pie in the oven. I make the best shepherd's pie. I'm thinking I can make shepherd's pie recipe. I'm going to make an ebook on what ingredients to buy and how to make it. Going to sell it on the internet.
Yep. And that's not, you're laughing, but there are people, I don't know if you've heard the website $5 Dinners.
No.
Yes, that's exactly how she started out.
No way.
Was teaching people how to make budget dinners, $5 or less.
Amazing.
Yes. So these ideas that are coming to you and, sound laughable right now, just write everything down.
I'm going to run out of Post-it notes, aren't I?
I think you need a notebook at this point.
It's a big investment, Ijama. I'm not sure.
That's so funny. Yeah. Now, can we talk about what you're doing on social media. Do you have certain ones that you focus on, or do you even do any social media?
I do. I definitely would say I focus my efforts at the moment on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
However, I am a complete newbie at Instagram. I just got it like a few weeks ago to kind of start playing with. I think I'd done it once or twice, like a couple of years before,
Yeah.
and then left it because I didn't really understand. And then with launching my new website, I thought I really need to get a handle on this.
Yeah.
I need to be, down with the cool kids and all that. So I asked my coolest friends to sit with me and show me what to do. And it was so simple. I can't believe that I hadn't been on it all this time, because it's really user friendly and simple.
I know. I built it up in my head to be something I just thought was this big, insurmountable.
Oh, did you think the same?
I did too. And I kept saying, I'm going to have to learn Instagram. I'm going to have to figure it out. Eventually I just realized, okay, there really isn't. I mean, yes, there's the algorithm and all that, which, I still don't really know how to game it or play it or not work around. I guess you can't game it. You just have to figure out how it works. I don't know how it works. I just know how to do what the platform was created for you to do, which is post pictures.
Isn't it funny when we give ourselves these hurdles to jump over, which are not really necessary?
Yes, it is.
I think because my friends came round, we had some coffee, and I thought this is going to be an hour or two. And I think before we'd even got halfway down the coffee, I'd gone, oh, is that it?
Yes.
You just take a photo.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I'm focusing my efforts on there. I've been a long time Facebook user, so I find that really easy.
Mm-hmm.
I also recently, I went on Pinterest, and I'm learning a bit about Pinterest as I go along as well. One of your interviewees mentioned the Manly Pinterest podcast.
Yes.
It's like a fabulous Welsh guy who I just thought was just so funny and so amazing.
Yes, that was.
And I'm definitely going to buy one because they're just awesome. All my money is flying out the door listening to your podcast. It's really bad. He mentioned Manly Pinterest podcast, and I just thought the name was so funny. I've been listening to that. So much good stuff you can do on Pinterest, which I had no idea about.
Yes, Pinterest is a beast all its own, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
And yes, and
I think if you can harness that beast, then you can do really well. Yeah, for sure.
And I've been quietly learning to get better at Pinterest. I said it too many times on the podcast that I didn't know Pinterest, but then I decided to just keep quiet about it, and I've been honing my Pinterest skills, and yes, the Manly Pinterest podcast.
It's such a great name.
It sounds like, yes, the name is hilarious, but those guys know their stuff, and the whole deal is everybody thinks Pinterest is just for women, and so here are these guys saying no, it's not, and we're going to tell you how to how to be good, because it's great, and men use Pinterest too.
I love that. I don't like to be pegged into a box anyway. I put on my false moustache while I'm listening, and it's all good.
Okay, so Emily, you told us about something you learned the hard way, essentially, when you got your first sale, and you had to ship three shades. Yeah. What is one thing, and if you have more than one, you can say it, but let's start with one thing about selling on Etsy right now that you really like. And then on the flip side, are there any features? And actually, you already mentioned a feature that you would like to see on Etsy with the international transactions, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I would love to see searching by distance as well.
Mm.
Because I mean, I think it's
For
quite trendy.
products or for other sellers?
Um, for buyers. So as a buyer, I would like to be able to see who's selling something closest to me. Because you can do that on eBay. So if you're looking for like a sofa or a couch on eBay, you can put search by distance so that you know that it's not going to come too far.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be really cool to have that feature on Etsy. I would proper love that. I think it's really trendy at the moment as well to shop local,
Yes.
and to have a small kind of travel footprint, fuel costs and footprints and things like that. I think that would be a really cool feature to have for sure.
Oh, yeah. I do like that actually. Now that
Yeah,
you mention it, you can
like
shop
imagine
local
you
but
could just
online.
type in. Yeah, like so it's got like your location recognition on most websites, hasn't it? So you shouldn't
Yes.
even need to put in your zip code or postcode.
Yeah, yeah.
Just click, within 5 mile distance, and it could order it in order of how far away from you. Imagine, like, if I wasn't a seller and I found out, my next door neighbor, but one, as she does, makes this amazing, like, Viking copper jewelry. It's so cool. I would love to buy from her rather than a random person that's 500 miles away.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Etsy is all about those personal connections. And I think that that's a big part of the Etsy community. So I think that would be a really cool feature, don't you?
I do actually, now that you mention it, I do think that would be a cool feature. The closest thing I can think to that Etsy offers is the local markets.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Shopping
but
in
it's
person.
not quite, yeah, you'd have to shop in person. Yes, it's not the same as buying from someone in your local area. I do like that.
Yeah.
And for multiple reasons, because yes, if you need something quicker, you might just want to get it from somebody locally, so
Yeah.
you're not just supporting a local business, but also you don't have to wait for your product to ship across
Absolutely.
a country or across the sea, and they might
Especially
even have pickup
delicate
options
things.
like eBay offers too.
Yeah. You could have like instead of shipping, you could have an option with your shipping either to be shipped or to pick up for free.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would be cool.
yeah.
Uh, so my lampshades are pretty delicate as well, so it might be nice for somebody to come and pick it up rather than
Yeah,
wait for it to be posted.
that's true. And even as I say this, I fear somebody might be listening and think, okay, we're already not happy with the direction Etsy is going, trying to be more like Amazon. And now you say it should be more like eBay. But we're talking about the good things, adopting the
Yeah,
good things that other platforms have to offer. So, um,
absolutely. Take all the good bits and put them in one place. Leave all the rubbish bits
yes,
behind.
yes, yes. So, I expect to hear from somebody.
Sorry, whoever's out there that doesn't like it.
What advice would you give to somebody who's been selling about the same time as you, but is just feeling static? They don't get their sales are, and this is something I see a question. I see questions come up a lot on, not in the forums because I don't really hang out in the forums, but on the Etsy Reddit, the Etsy subreddit on Reddit.
Oh, how
In
funny that you just mentioned that. I've
what?
just discovered that today.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
It's cool. There's so much there. I just want to have a couple of hours to just like scroll
Yes,
through it and
you
find all the bits.
you do need
It looks
a
like,
couple of hours.
yeah, like private knowledge there.
Yes, yes. And that's not to say that, people on there don't get angry, but I like it more so because it's a helpful community. People will ask questions and people will answer questions. I try to answer questions when I can as well. If I know the answers or if somebody asks the same thing, um,
Uh,
you can, or you've gone through something and then somebody's asking the same thing, or they're talking about an experience they're having on Etsy and you're having the same experience. You can jump in there and say, oh yes, this happened to me or what have you. I find it different from the forums in that it's not as ranty. It's just more so people looking for help from others.
Ranty.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have noticed that. I've only really been on the forums just like a bit more recently, and still quite sporadically, but yeah, it's a bit ranty, isn't it?
yeah, just a bit.
Always, if you can't put a positive spin on something, then you just need to forget about it.
Yes, yeah.
Because
And
moaning isn't going to make yourself feel better.
no, no, yes. And I think that's why I like the Etsy subreddit in that people do rant on there, don't get me wrong. But more people are there to help and to learn. And
Yeah.
so I just kind of prefer that platform because then
Oh,
I feel more,
like to go.
I feel better. I feel more comfortable responding because I don't feel like somebody is going to jump on something I say and attack me for saying something. I mean, that does happen, but not like, I don't know. I keep saying it happens there too, which it does, but not in the same way. It's just kind of different, you know?
Okay.
It's,
Everyone's a bit more chill.
yeah, yeah, yes. Everyone is a bit more chill. Yes. And now I forgot what I asked you. Oh, yes, advice. Advice. What would you say? So somebody's feeling really stuck and stagnant right now, which, you know, I know a lot of people are because I see it quite a bit on the Etsy subreddit where, you know, people will say their sales come in bursts. So one week is really good and then it's quiet for 2 weeks. And then another week they're so busy and then it gets quiet again. So anyway, so what would you tell that person that's feeling some stagnation right now in their Etsy shop? What should
I
they
would
do?
say, I would say definitely think of it in a positive way, first of all, like I
Mm,
mentioned a minute ago. If you think of anything in a negative way, you're only going to get negative solutions from it. And it's just, I don't think that's a good way to approach it. So kind of think, right, this is the situation. How can I make this work for me? And I would say, I mean, of course, it's lovely to have the orders flying in all the time and have the cha-ching noise on your
yeah.
phone. Love that noise.
Yes.
But having a quiet period, kind of in a cyclical nature, that's really nice because you can be plowing all that energy instead of into fulfilling orders. You can be plowing it into researching ways to improve. You can be making new products, improving on your photography.
Mm-hmm.
Something I kind of a idea that popped into my head recently, which has been working really well for me so
Mm-hmm.
far, touch wood, is using up all your photo slots. So you know
Yes.
you get like 10 slots for a listing,
Yep.
and I was maybe using like one or two, and I think, well, how many times can I take a photo of a lampshade?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem right. But actually, you can put a lot of your information from your about section into those photograph slots. I
Oh,
think people are
I have
much more
seen some sellers
visual.
do that. Yeah. Go on.
I have, yeah, it's such a cool idea. People don't want to read like my really stupidly crazy long description on each listing, which I am going to update soon, definitely, because I don't need all that info anymore.
Yeah.
Because I have put a lot of it into the photo section.
Mm.
Um, and you can do that really easily. I'm not a technological genius by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, yeah, take a photo. You can do it on your phone or on your computer. You just add a text box.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I guess if you were making necklaces, you could have a picture of like 8 lengths of necklaces and a little text box saying, choose your own length, or this is what the different lengths look like. Or you could have a photograph with the text over the top saying, make sure that you fill in the personalization box and tell me what you want written on it. Or you can just put so much info onto your photos and out of your description. So that's been great for me.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say that's really, I know everyone's different, but it's really energized me is reaching out to local sellers and trying to kind of build up that community. It's really energized me. It's given me a new lease of life, so to speak.
Right.
And I really didn't get why that would be important for a long time, because I kind of feel like, being online, it's a great leveler, isn't it? It doesn't matter if
Yes.
someone is in Australia or America or France or Britain or anywhere, because we're all on the same online platform. So I kind of didn't like being local wasn't important to me. Whereas actually now I've really changed my mind about that.
Yeah.
And actually, that face-to-face human interaction and human connection is fantastic. And I really think that kind of sharing your ideas, sharing what you're good at, and hearing what other people are good at, I think you can just come away absolutely buzzing.
Speaking of having people to share ideas with that really understand what it means and what selling on Etsy is like. You've had your mom who also sells on Etsy, and you've at least had somebody that you can talk to. How is it having your mom as a fellow seller? How do you guys or do you guys communicate about selling? Do you help each other along the way? Do you talk about your experiences, and how do you each come at running your Etsy shops? Similarly, different outlooks?
I
Sorry,
would say
that's
we're
so many
quite
questions.
yeah. Which one should I go with first? I would say we're quite different. We have a different approach to life in general a lot of the time, I think. But also, I guess there's like generational differences. So for me, it's quite interesting seeing how my mum looks at things and adapts to things and approaches her Etsy shop with her wisdom and experience as to how I will adapt to it. And I guess sometimes she's not so keen on all the fast changes that Etsy keeps throwing out every 5 minutes and all their suggestions. You need to do this, you need to do that, you need to change to free shipping, and you need to do your site. I think my mum is a bit more old school and traditional, and I think I don't want to put words in her mouth. Maybe I'll get her to apply to be on your show. She'll say everything she said was rubbish. But since she's not here, I kind of feel like she's got a more traditional approach, and she's not so keen on all of that. But that's where I feel like we kind of help each other out. So sometimes, with the SEO changes that they had recently, for example, especially with the free shipping, I feel like I can kind of stay on top of that relatively easy and get my head around it. Whereas I feel like I can maybe pass that on to my mum a little bit, more have a bit of back and forth banter about why it's a good idea and why it's not a good idea. But my mum actually, she'll have ideas and say, well, actually, I think it's not so good, and this is why. And it will be things that I haven't thought of previously. Which I enjoy. It's good. It's good to get a different perspective, right?
Oh, for sure. Now, your mom, and for anyone who wants to check out Emily's mom's shop, it's Satz Designs. That's SATZ or Z. DESIGNS. And she sells fabric hats, very fashionable looking, like so European, the kind of thing that you see like on a runway in a fashion show.
She'll love you said that.
So yeah, you can go check out her shop. And Emily's mom has been selling since 2009. So when you talk about her not, having it, maybe not really taking so quickly to some of the changes, I get that, because 2009 was like early days of Etsy. The heyday of well, I shouldn't say the heyday, because that makes it sound like Etsy is not doing well. When
not downhill from here.
Yeah, no, I take that back. Early days. And so I'm sure she's seen a lot of changes, but I'm always encouraged when I see sellers who've been around since near the beginning of Etsy and they're still on there. Because for anyone who thinks, I'm just ready to let go and just move on and, set up my site and never, have any connection with Etsy, I feel like, well, there's something to be said for just sticking it out, it's
Yeah.
there's still traffic coming to Etsy. People are going to find it easier, I think, than your site until you're fully well established and have a name and an audience. So why not just take advantage of that? And so, I like to see sellers who've been around and, just weather the storm, whether or not they're happy about all the changes. We never will be. But
and she's seen more changes than me for sure. She's been on there like 5 years more than me. So yeah, she's, like you say, she's been there pretty much from the beginning. But yeah, I mean, her stuff's insane. She doesn't perhaps sell as frequently as me, but that's because her things are like insanely detailed.
Yes,
they take so long to make. My mum's been a seamstress. She's made things for celebrities, for film sets.
See, I wasn't so off. I did say it looks like it would be on her fashion runway, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mum's eye for detail is like crazy good. Crazy good. So yeah, while she's not, selling 10 things a day, I would say is working full time doing it, because she's selling a few things a week and just putting so much into each item. So yeah, she does have quite a different product to me, for sure. But yeah, it's really interesting having these chats with her, and it's, we're not always on the same page, but that's what makes it really interesting.
What side of the fence did you both fall when it came to the paid, the subscription Etsy platforms? I shouldn't say subscription. There's the one you pay for and then you can stay free.
Like Etsy Plus and
yes, thank you.
I was curious.
Okay.
I wouldn't like to speak for my mum, because I'm not too sure how she felt about it, but I'm sure she was quite curious as well. But for now, she's decided not to bother, and I decided to go for it, because I figure, you can try it for a month and see what happens. So yeah, I think I'm probably a little bit more quick to try things and not to write things off. However, for me personally, at this point in time, I think my mum was possibly right in not going for Etsy Plus.
I was going to say, I can tell that you did, because I see that you have I know that one of the features with Etsy Plus is being able to do some magic with your product listings and how you not stage them, but show different ones at the top. And so I see that you're doing that. So that's one good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that feature. It took me about 6 seconds to do it.
Oh, it was that easy.
Yeah, probably less than 6 seconds, if I'm honest. And then beyond that, I haven't had a huge amount of benefit that I can work out. It does give me a discount on one of the UK printers, moo.com. I don't know, do you have those in the USA?
Yes, moo.com.
So I get a lot of my branding from them anyway. So I thought 30% off, that's brilliant.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's going to pay for itself. That's good. And then, but to get that, from what I can work out, I have to click through the Etsy Plus link, but then it takes me to a completely different page on moo.com where you have to speak to an advisor and you don't have access to everything. So I need to kind of sit down and, and work out why that is. I
Oh,
thought it was just going to take me to the website where I normally get my stuff from. Um, of course, all my stuff is saved on the Moo regular website.
yeah.
So I don't really
Huh.
want to upload everything and start from scratch again. So yeah, I tried it out. It's just going to be for a month, and then it's going
Okay.
to normal Etsy.
I wonder if they do that to track. They probably do that for tracking purposes.
Yeah,
But
I
to make
hadn't
you have
thought
to talk with an individual, I mean,
it's yeah, that seems a bit labor intensive.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
I'm
Oh, well,
sure,
good
yeah, I'm
to
sure that's
know.
good.
Good to know. Yes, I didn't sign up for Plus only because the benefits that you get with the paid account, none of them were really for me worth it, because they
No,
either were not things that applied to me, or that
yeah,
I was going to take advantage of. And so for that I was curious, but I didn't want to pay if the main offerings were not things I was going to use. I mean,
yeah, yeah. And I think it's hard to tell if something's going to pay off without dipping your toe in the water.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so I don't regret signing up for it just to kind of have
Oh
a
yeah,
little look.
yeah.
And I don't doubt that down the line it will become much more worthwhile. I think we're going to probably see a lot of improvements with
Yes,
that.
and that's what I'm waiting for. Is I do
Yeah,
think they're going to beef it up as
yeah,
time goes on. And I
sure.
kind of hold my breath sometimes, because when I read about some of the improvements that they're making, and things coming down the pipeline on Etsy, I hold my breath sometimes, because I think, oh, please don't make that a paid don't make that a part of the paid side of
Yeah.
Etsy. Can you just please keep it free, keep it free, keep it free?
But
So
then all the things that we pay for helping to fund all of these new improvements that we're seeing. So I don't mind it to a small extent.
yes, yes, and that's the plus side. And thank you for reminding me, because I do have to keep that at the back of my mind, is that this money is going into not just research and development, but new tools and new resources. So and I should
Yeah,
know,
well,
with a
research.
podcast, it's so anyway, good deal.
All good.
Are there any resources that you find particularly helpful in running your Etsy shop that you can share with us? And it could be a book that you read, or a website that you go to, or yeah, anything.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, firstly, I would say whatever system you have for listening to podcasts, tell everyone about it. Obviously, if you're hearing this interview, then you have podcasts. But a lot of my friends don't even know how to get podcasts. And I would like to see all of us spreading the word, because podcasts for me have just blown my mind. There's so much information. And to use the word passively again, it's like absorbing information and learning and tutorials, but passively, because the time that I'm listening to podcasts is when I'm making.
Yeah.
So, 9 a.m., cup of coffee, come in to look at my orders for the day and start making them all. And I've got podcasts on in the background that are telling me all of this information and resource knowledge. And it's, hence why I have about 62 multicolored Post-it notes on them. Because I don't want to stop making, but I want to maybe just remember something. So I'll write it on a Post-it note, stick it on the wall.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, and it's such a kind of passive way to learn about a subject. And there's so much you can learn that you didn't even think was something that you needed to learn. So
Yes.
definitely listening to podcasts is amazing. But also for me, I've discovered again, I might be a bit late to the party, but I've discovered Marmalade and Etsy Rank.
Yes.
Do you use those?
I have. Thanks for putting me on the spot, Emily. I have
Sorry.
used I have used both those tools in the past, and I have not used them lately. Not
Okay.
for any other reason, but because I have so much going on, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you probably haven't heard me say this because you haven't been listening all that much, but I do my listings in. I'm a dripper, and so as opposed to a dumper, and so I I list. I create draft listings. I will spend weeks doing, working on my photography. I do everything in batches and working on photography, and then I'll write up all. I use a spreadsheet and I write up all the listing information that will go into the different sections on the listing page. Then I weigh everything, with packing materials and all. So I feed all that into my spreadsheet. Then I put everything into Etsy and I save them as drafts so that over the next few months, every other day or so, I'll just switch 3 or so drafts from draft into active listings.
Why do you do it that way?
Because for me it's a more efficient way to do. I don't sell handmade products. I sell vintage crafting supplies. And so for me, I don't have to make anything right there and then. There's no customization involved, there's no personalization. And so for me, it's just an efficient system to get, to keep my shop infused with fresh products.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of the things that Etsy recommends, is to keep fresh products coming in. So rather than every few days do all that in, every few days I'm taking pictures, I'm doing listings, I'm, creating new drafts, new listings. It's easier for me to just batch that, do it in bulk, and then so in every couple of months I'll do that, as opposed to every few days. So then that way I'm freed up to do other things in life outside.
See, I have quite a different approach. I am so impatient.
Oh.
As soon as I make something, I just want to get it on straight up there, get my listing done. I don't even want to wait 5 seconds. Like, someone might buy this if I don't get it. Like,
yes, and I get that, because I've had and I kick myself sometimes, because I will, more than once, I will go into my drafts, I'll switch 3 items from draft into active listings, and then more than once it's happened, either by the end of the day or within a couple of days, those brand new listings sell, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I could have sold this thing, way back when, but it's been sitting in drafts. Somebody has been waiting for this. And I sometimes, contemplate, I sometimes go back and forth with myself. Like, should I just should I just turn all, like right now I have 270 or so listings in draft mode. And I think, should I just release them all into my shop?
Yes,
but then
good.
I lose some SEO benefit by doing that. So that's why.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. I think that's really interesting. You must have some serious willpower, because if I had 270 drafts, I would be pressing that button or sweating in my sleep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, yeah. I don't know if it's the best way. It's just, for me, what I'm doing now, just to keep my sanity, because I do the podcast as well, so I have to make time to schedule interviews and talk with people and all that. So I can't I can't be in my shop every single day, but this is one way that I can still keep it fresh and, still keep it new by,
Love it.
parsing
It's,
out what I do when.
I love it. It's great.
Okay, so so Marmalade and Etsy rank. And the nice thing is now, for anyone who doesn't know, Etsy has a section called integrations. Are you familiar with that, Emily?
Yeah. As soon as
Yes.
it got released, I thought, wow, a new toy to play with.
Yes, yes. And so now you can easily integrate these tools into your Etsy shop ecosystem by going to the integrations section of your shop manager and linking them up and trying them. So it's now even so much easier. And what I like is that it's, some in a way I feel it gives validation to the tools and the applications that Etsy has chosen to include in their integrations
Yeah.
tool. And I would like to say that I talked to them before Etsy had them on.
You got there first.
I got there first.
I think they're absolutely brilliant tools.
Yes. Yeah.
It takes a bit of, playing around with and a bit of experimentation. But yeah, this is my new obsession. When I feel like I need to just take 5 minutes out and do something else, I click onto Etsy rank, and I'm a bit obsessed with getting all my listings up to the A+ rating. Take it from a Z to an A, but it's been brilliant. You don't have to pay for that function.
No, you
I
don't.
think it's really generous of them. But yeah, I've been selling things that have been dormant in my shop for a long time, or very slowly selling, and now suddenly I'm selling them quickly. It's great. Just think, thanks, Etsy rank.
Yes.
It's worth noting though, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but on Marmalade, if you go through the integrations, it doesn't seem to give you any option to do a free trial. Whereas if you Google like Marmalade free trial or 2 weeks free or something like that, you should be able to find a link pretty easily to get a couple of weeks to try it out before you buy it.
Yes.
So it might be doing that.
Okay, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I also recall, I haven't been to their site in a while, that they used to have an account. If you go directly to their website, that was for, I think they called it the Dabbler account, which was free. And you had access to some of the tools, definitely not the whole suite, but some of them. And so I'm guessing that's no longer an option. Now you have
It's
to.
not something I remember seeing.
Okay, so that was a while ago, yes. So they had the entrepreneur, they called it something, and then the dabbler. And the dabbler, you could go in there. It would just not show you everything, but you would still be able to see some things.
I think that's pretty much the 2-week free trial. But it is limited to those 14 days.
Okay. Back
So
then it was indefinite. You could just keep using it and never have to upgrade. But I think they must have changed that.
It's obviously too good to give it away.
Yeah.
But they're definitely great resources, and they'll give you ideas that you might not have thought of, or for example, spelling mistakes. You're not going to go through 200 of your listings looking for a spelling mistake that may or may not be there. Whereas, Marmalade and Etsy rank, you can, with the click of one button, you can see exactly any spelling errors, any tags that have been spelt wrong, any tags that have doubled up and are being wasted. It's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep. Love it. Good stuff. So I will have links to those. But like I said, in your integrations tab in your shop manager, you can find those there as well. Emily, what's the best way people can connect with you if they choose to do so, or if they would like to do so?
I would love people to connect with me. It would be great to hear from people who've listened to this, and hopefully they're not going to shout at me for any opinions I've had. But I'd love to chat with people. Through my Etsy shop, BrightenUpUK is definitely a great way, because I have my laptop open literally all day listening to podcasts while I work. So as soon as I get a conversation, I tend to try and reply straight away. Or you can get me on my email, which is linked to my new website, and that is info@mybrightenup.com.
Okay.
And that will come straight to me. So yeah, either way would be amazing.
Okay. Very good.
Love to people.
I will make sure I include Emily's contact information. So if you want to connect with her, you can very easily do so. Okay, so
Unless
Emily,
it's for shouting.
sorry, go on. What did you say?
Unless it's for shouting.
No, that will come to me. Okay, so we have some follow-up to do, don't we?
The pressure is on.
It's on. It's very much on. Yes. So I will be talking to Emily in the future, and I'll let her decide if she wants to make it a public conversation or if it will be a private conversation. But I really think that once you give it some thought, I think you can come up with some really creative things to do. And I, for one, would love to know how it all pans out.
Oh, thank you. Well, I definitely will have to get on with it now if you're going to come and check.
Well, it won't be like tomorrow.
What have you done?
Oh, but thank you so much. I really do appreciate you being my guest on the podcast and coming, and I'm happy to say I feel comfortable that I was able to go over my 2,000 word limit with you for the day. And I will no longer speak today.
Now, the rest of the night.
Yes, yeah, at least your day is almost over. I still have a good portion of the day, so nobody will be hearing from me anymore. But thank you so much for being my guest, Emily.
Oh, thank you. It's just a dream come true to talk with you. And yeah, like I say, I found your podcast just a few weeks ago. I have been loving every single episode. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I just want to take this time to thank my guests on the podcast. I feel like all I do is I do the technical stuff and I ask the questions, and the real meat of the show is really my guests. So thank you to everyone who has agreed to be my guest on the podcast. And if you're listening, I like talking to Etsy sellers. You don't have to feel like you're a superstar seller or anything, because all our experiences are different and all our experiences are relevant. So if you want to be my guest on the podcast, please feel free to send me an email at interview@convome.com. I will give you a few disclaimers. Sometimes I'm late with responding because I get a few emails, so it takes me a while to get through them all. And then sometimes if I respond to you, I've been told my emails go into your junk mail folder. So if you've emailed me and you haven't heard back, please check your junk mail folder. And I thank you again for listening to this episode. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.